Oh, come in. My friend Martin and I, Martin Guitar, we were just talking about problems in life. And Martin remembered this old song. Do you remember this old song? Troubles, any old troubles. Bring me your troubles one by one. I'll trade 'em all for a bag of fun. Any old troubles. We all have troubles. It's part of being in the world. And you've heard the old saying that for the pessimist, the glass is half empty, and for the optimist, the glass is half full. And some of the half-empty people I've heard today, they say, well, even if the glass is half full, it's either polluted or it's fattening or something. There's always something to worry about. Well, how do we go about facing these? I admire the people who are, shall we say, maybe a little bit in the middle there. They realize that this world isn't everything they hoped it would be, and sometimes there are problems. But they often use this phrase, it could have been worse. My mother would be among those when the kitchen caught fire and it got pretty black in there and did a lot of damage. But my mother said, and truly so, it could have been worse. You heard this story? Story of a grandma who had this philosophy, and she was always saying she'd had lots of experience over life and telling her grandchildren, well, it could have been worse, could have been worse. They come with a scratch on their knee, or they have a bad report card or whatever. Well, could have been yours. Finally, these kids decided they were going to push it to the limits and see how far grandma would go. So they had a picnic, and the children came running out of the trees and saying, Grandma, terrible thing happened. Little Herman got carried away by the devil. And Grandma said, could have been worse. They said, Grandma, how could it be worse? He got carried away by the devil. Grandma said, well, it could have been worse. The devil could have made Herman carry him. At least Herman got a free ride out of it. Well, that's just a story, I'm sure. But I have a better story than that, and it's a true story. A great man, Elder LeGrand Richards of the Council of the 12. He was an apostle, and he lived a long time. And one of the things they said was precious for him for them having him in the council was whenever they had a big problem, he'd already seen something like it. He'd lived long enough to see something like it, and he knew that they'd get through it. And he was a man who would say, it could have been worse. Suffered the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare has Hamlet saying. Well, a few years ago, as he was getting old, they hired me to interview him and to write a script and narrate it on his life, a very colorful life. So I had a chance to talk with this great man, and he realized he was pushing the envelope on mortality. But he said, I met so many wonderful people. I've learned so many wonderful things in this great world. And he also, frankly, he was looking forward to being with his beloved wife again. We had a delightful time and got to do a good script and honor a great man. But a while after that, after we'd had our talk, because of bad circulation in his legs, they had to amputate one of his feet. Now, I'm sure that even an unsinkable man like he was, it wasn't easy for him to go on crutches for the rest of his life. But people would often ask him, they would say, Elder Richards, how are you? And he had this great line. He said, well, I'm just happy they started on that end. Now that is, it could have been worse at its best. Troubles, any old troubles, bring me your troubles one by one. I'll trade 'em all for a bag of fun. And remember that it could have been worse.